Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of What a Week right here on MediaNet TV with your host, Mr. C, and also my co-host, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Crossbody.
Hey, good evening, Mr. C. How you doing, sir?
I'm very, very well, thank you, Tony. And yourself, how art thou, my brethren?
I'm not too bad. We're on the eve of going into Tier 3. Nothing more than lockdown in
Listen,
the
man,
skies.
I tell you
And
what.
the government is considering whether or not to ease up restrictions so that we can actually go and visit our families over the Christmas.
Wow, what a thing, eh? I tell you what, I don't know about Tier 3, mate, but it's pure tears boiling for people this Christmas. You know what I mean? I almost feel like Britain's turned into a third world country and we should be singing, "Do they know it's Christmas?" They hear the Africans say, "Do they know it's Christmas?" Because we got our coronavirus under control over here.
These countries that they always talk about being the developing countries, they've got it under control. And we're supposed to be ahead, and we haven't got it under control.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I'm sure that as Black people, we will find creative ways to be able to go and visit our family members over this festive season of paganism or whatever you want to call it.
Indeed, we will find a way. Saying good evening to Colin. Good evening, sir. How you doing? Nice to see you.
Big up. Yeah. So listen to all of our watchers, viewers, wherever you are in the world. We welcome you. We thank you. Please remember to tell another, tell a friend, tell an enemy. But most importantly, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. But also, we want you to be involved in the comments. No matter what the subject is, we want your contributions. Me and Tony cannot do this show without your voices too. So please feel free. Tony, listen, our first headline for this week. Wow, what a headline. Please, let's start with this. Let's start with this story. This is the one where the UK government has underestimated just how many of the Hong Kong people would like to come up here as part of their resettlement scheme. The survey has found out that more than 500,000 may want to move into Britain within the next couple of years. Tony, when you saw this headline, what were the things that was running through your mind, sir?
I think those who were deported recently probably was the first thing that I was thinking of. Exactly. I know that the government has made some sort of provision for about 2 to 3 million people from Hong Kong to basically to come here, apparently because of what China is doing in Hong Kong. But I'm quite amazed that in the space of 2 years, so many people want to come here. There's not going to be enough rooms to see.
Yeah. And again, I mean, this is part of the new British government scheme, which ironically opens in January. And this allows those with so-called colonial era British national overseas status to obtain visas and pursue a path to citizenships. So the question I would like to ask is, does this mean all of the ex-colonial British national overseas people who you've just sent overseas, can they apply and come back?
I bet it's a question of how much money do you have and how much money do you have to bring into the country.
I definitely, because as we know, Hong Kong is very much a financial capital over in Asia. I'm assuming that a lot of these people are bringing their wealth with them, which they don't want to share with the Chinese government. And it's almost like we've already started to see that, you know, the gentrification of especially areas in central London, where we see all these massive apartment blocks being built, and you think, well, who is paying 800,000 for this flat? And obviously, the Russian oily, what do you call them, Tony?
Oligarchs.
Oh, that's it. I call them oily gods, actually. But yeah, and obviously these affluent Asian, Hong Kong Chinese people are the other nationalities as well. So it seems to be very much a class system here. If you've got, as you said correctly, Tony, the right amount of wealth, we welcome you with open arms. However, if you haven't got that kind of status and you are of a particular hue, then goodbye to you.
Well, I mean, if you step back a bit and look at it objectively, I think every country wants the brightest and the best coming in and contributing to their wealth. So this doesn't really surprise me. The problem is the people that you already have here, who basically you had as citizens, and they contributed to the tax system. Now and then you're kicking them out. That's the problem. If you don't want to take in any more because you think they're not going to contribute, that's one thing. But the people that you already have here, you're treating them so mercilessly.
Well, they reckon around about 3/4 of these Hong Kongians hold university degrees, so they're highly educated, and they earn salaries way above the city average. So they're in a very good position to contribute to the British economy. So why not have them over here after COVID? It's going to be a bit rocky. We're going to need a boost and injection to the economy. So why not have these very highly educated, very affluent, hardworking, highly skilled people come over and help boost the financial economy of the UK? Surely everybody will benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the British government already has a relationship with Hong Kong. Most residents of Hong Kong were happy under British colonial rule. China's now come in and started to bring in some draconian measures, and these people now say, well, we can't live under that, we want to be here. So I can understand that relationship, but the British government picks and chooses who it likes and who it doesn't like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're saying 96% consider Hong Kong no longer a safe place or a free home that they're used to living in. So that's why they want to come over here, and they really want to come over here urgently. It's funny because when there's other areas where people want to flee their country because they don't feel safe, it doesn't seem to be as welcoming to me, Tony. Which
you see what they're doing in the channel right now. With migrants wanting to come in. You know how they treat, and in the European countries, how they're treating them. They're pushing their boats right back out to sea. So they obviously feel that they're not making a contribution to their country. Yeah.
Well, we want to say good evening and welcome to Julie Juice, Colin Allen as well. Good evening. Angela Cozier, good evening to you. And also Anthony Lau says, as they're coming in, who's going out?
Pack your bags, Anthony. You're next, mate.
You listen, mate. I've got to be careful because obviously, as Nick Ferrari on that cheeky little swine flu of a germ, talking about when we was, a Jamaican rapist coming to live next to you soon. How dare you, Nick?
Gosh.
Yeah, how dare you? Angela says Hong Kong is very useful to England. Yeah, as Tony said as well, they have a long history, a long relationship of trade. Again, even I suppose that the whole drug industry was born out of Britain's relationship with Hong Kong.
Absolutely.
Opium, the necessity of opium, and it all started with that British Hong Kong relationship. And yeah, here we are still in 2020 with the how can I say, the backlash of all of that love for opiums. Karen James says good evening to everyone. Colin Allen says it's Operation Radication. I love that. Yeah. Well, we should be keeping a very, very close eye on that situation to see how it all pans out and to see whether or not it has drastic effects on those of us who might not be in the upper class echelons of society. We now move on with sports. This weekend, a massive event took place at Wembley Stadium, Wembley Arena, actually. And boy, Tony, was you there? Did you manage to get yourself a ringside seat?
A ringside seat from my settee, where I watched the great man Anthony Joshua after probably about a year he hadn't fought, taking on Kubrat Pulev. I believe it was for I think he was the mandatory contender for the WBO, I believe.
Yeah, well, yeah. WBA, which is a super, IBF, WBO, IBO heavyweight championships,
Right.
and yeah, Anthony Joshua is holding a lot of belts at the moment, man.
Yeah. And it was a very entertaining fight to watch, I must say. Just to see the improvements that Anthony Joshua, and you know the thing about him, because he's continuously improving. I mean, you can see that he's going to be a legendary fighter in 20 years' time. We'll be talking about him in the same way I think that we're talking about Lennox or Tyson. And the reason for that is because he's got the belt. He's got these belts at a stage where he's still learning the trade. Many heavyweights have had to go through the whole process of getting to their peak before they could hold the belt.
Right, true.
And he hasn't reached his peak yet, and he's got 4 of them. And just watching him on Saturday, the way he was moving, you know, his footwork was great. The way he read the fight. I mean, I was watching a breakdown of his tactics on YouTube. I was very, very impressed. You know, his overall performance. Yeah, I was really happy with it. Yeah. What did you think?
But listen, I saw bits of the fight because, as usual, I said to myself, you know what, let me take a little nap before the fight starts. Oh man, every single time I do this, I say I'm gonna take a little nap so that I'm fresh. And my eyes opened. I knew it was starting, and I said, I'll open them up again in 30 seconds time. Boxing done. But I have seen the clips, and I was really impressed. I was worried for him, to be honest with you, because you know, it's been, as you said, a year since he's been in the ring. I thought, you know, has he got a little bit lacklustered? You know, would he still have the discipline that he had before?
Right.
And what it shows is that he has a motto, which is stay hungry, and he lives by that. You could see the hunger and his desire, as you're saying, to acquire more skills and to do the job properly. You know, Denise Francis says some of the licks he gave him, my word. Listen,
yeah,
that last punch, I flinched. I did that little ooh, you know what? He was absolutely fantastic, man. Ladies, did you enjoy the fight? Because I know that when you watch Anthony Joshua, you watch him from a different perspective, it seems. Me and Tony feel like the way how you watch Anthony Joshua, you don't watch us like that. Ladies, have you got anything to say?
Saying good evening to T Smooth. Good evening, brother.
Big up T.
And Lynn Jones.
Yes. Denise Richards is saying what perspective? You know what perspective we're talking about, yeah?
His biceps.
Yeah. Listen,
no, that guy was really durable, though. I mean, he took like 3 or 4 uppercuts in a row and he wasn't dropped. I mean, that's some granite chin that guy's got, man.
Well, listen, you know what? I mean, I've never heard of the guy before. However, his record speaks for itself. You know, we're looking there, 28 wins, 1 previous loss. I mean, sorry, 29 fights, 28 wins. So he's no bum. So again, and you know, he's got 8 years worth of experience over Anthony Joshua as well. So, you know, he's not some bum, really and truly. About you know, what can we say? AJ, man, the future is looking bright, and I totally agree that he could be one of the greatest, definitely. You know, born in the UK, out of Africa, out of Nigeria, an absolute another sporting legend, man. Oh, it's looking good for us, eh?
Well, I mean, you got him, you got Tyson Fury. I mean, you know, in the top 10, you've got about 4 or 5 good British fighters. I don't see where there's going to be a space for the American heavyweights for now.
Yeah. Talking about Americans, even the famous pound for pound, one of the best boxers of our generation, the new generation. Even he came in town to have a look. Mayweather himself was in town, and that's probably why he took your seat. I think, Tony, he took your seat.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I understand they're brethren, so you know they go back a little way and talk a lot. No doubt, Mayweather passes on some of his experience and tips and all that, and which is great. I tell you what, Joshua really, at some parts of the fight, reminded me of Ali, I have to say.
No, stop it. This is what you're doing here.
No, I tell you, because he shed a lot of that muscle. You know that heavy muscle that he used to have, and he's just got a bit of more snap to his jab. He's just got he's lighter, so he moves much better. At certain points, you watch him, and you're watching someone who's really thinking about what they're doing. And as I said, man, I was really impressed with him.
Okay, good. Warm blessings back to you and Tegan Allison, and greetings everybody. She's saying in her R&B crew and her big sis Karen James. Now look, I totally agree with you. He is looking more agile. He has trimmed down the fat, and yeah, I do believe he's going to have an absolute fantastic future in boxing. Our next subject, ladies and gentlemen, which we just want to touch on, is I came across some interesting figures. I just wanted to ask our viewers a few questions and see what kind of answers come up. If we're looking at the African diaspora, where would you think the most displaced Africans are, most displaced Africans and their descendants are outside of Africa in 2020? So again, in your comments, just put which country you think has got the most Africans and their descendants where they've been displaced throughout time in 2020. Who do you think's got the most? And just have a little rough guess as regards to how many millions we're talking about. Tony, I'll pose a question to you. Who would you think is in the top? Let's see if we can guess the top five. The top five. Denise Richards is America.
Yeah, I would say that Denise, America. Well, if you're looking at the history of the Caribbean region, if you take the region as a whole,
I'm dealing with countries. So if you're going to go Caribbean, then tell me which particular island.
Oh right, okay. Well, no, you can't because it's such a small number per island. But Colin Allen just said Brazil.
Brazil, okay. Angela says France and the UK. Cheeky, I see what you did there. I asked for one and you give me two, yeah? You're a kind of person I need to ask for money. I say if I ask Angela for £50, you gotta give me 100. And Tegan Allison says Ghana. And now she's changed her mind and said Brazil now as well.
She's the kind of person you don't want to sit next to you when you're doing a test.
Yeah. Trust me. Okay. I'm gonna deal this in descending order. So number 5 is Venezuela with 5,800,000. Number 4 is one that I didn't even think of. Right. But actually, Tony, you picked this up in your Black History lesson not too long ago. Number 4 was Mexico.
Yeah.
I didn't even register or think about Mexico. So Mexico is 4th with 6,300,000. Number 3 is in the Caribbean, and it is Haiti with 11 million.
Wow, I didn't know that was the population.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you see Haiti, man. You can explains why that country is the way how it is. You know. Number 2 in the list was one what Jen said. United States of America with 46 million. And 46,400,000, I stand corrected, which we kind of knew that. And of course, I think the first person to say it was Colin Allen. You are absolutely correct. It is Brazil. And anybody want to take a guess at the amount of millions of African descent in Brazil?
If they squint their eyes, they can see it on the screen.
Oh my gosh, typical. Typical. I was too busy watching the comments like a numpty. 82,300,000 in Brazil, man.
Yeah.
So just imagine if all of these people got together as one, what we could do as people.
Yeah.
If we could take a little bit of all of these numbers and do something magical. Imagine what we could do as people.
Yeah.
You know,
it's amazing when you look at those numbers and you could, you tally them up, man. I mean, you're getting into the sort of hundreds of millions of people who were spread throughout the world. And then you're not even talking about in that list. I mean, that's pretty much the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
You're not even talking about those who were taken into the Middle East and into the East. We did a thing a few weeks ago about India and those who were taken as enslaved persons into India by the Muslims. So I mean, these people number into the hundreds of millions collectively. It's an incredible number.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, this brings us to the question, ladies and gentlemen. 2021 is dawning. We've been through a turbulent year of Black awareness to our plights, to our situations. For years, we've been talking about reparations. We've been talking about equal rights and justice. Is 2021 a year where we take a stand ourselves and come together to do something special? Our guest for today, ladies and gentlemen, is a lady, a woman of Black beauty and descent who has come up with an idea that she wants to move things a little bit forward for us. Instead of begging, instead of asking, let us do something. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome our first guest, Kim Thompson from United We Rise UK.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening. We can hear you, but we can't see you, darling.
Yeah, why can't you see me? All of a sudden the screen's gone blank.
Have you got
not clear what's
anything
happening.
over your
camera?
Your camera? Yeah. I do that sometimes.
No.
Is the light on?
No. It was fine and then it went black. I thought it was from your side, because my side's fine.
Okay. If you just go to where it says stop cam or cam and mic and have a look at that and then come back in again. Well, you know what we'll do? We can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
It's a shame we can't see you.
Yeah,
but, let's
anyway,
not.
I'm gonna try and do it while we're talking.
Okay, cool.
But good evening, kings and queens. My name's Kim Thompson. I'm the founder of United We Rise UK. My sister does Blackwall Street, London. And what I'm actually plugging today is the Black Million campaign that she's running. What I'm looking for is everybody to take a look at the page, donate £1, just £1, and share with all your platforms that you know. My thing is, at the end of the day, I can see on TV, we've got children in need, we've got, is it Save the whatever fund and
Save the dolphin usually. Save the dolphin or the donkey.
Pay £2, £3 for cat and dog and this for this kind of cause. Want 1 million people, £1 million. That we want a building for ourselves. My sister needs a building so that all the exhibitors can sell and promote their products. I deal with the mentoring side of things, so we could be doing workshops, offices, anything that any kind of organization needs.
We're just going to backtrack, Kim. Sorry. Yes. We're just going to backtrack. First of all, we're going to talk about your organization, United We Rise UK. What is United We Rise UK all about, first and foremost?
It's really, I've been mentoring for the last, 25, 30 odd years.
Is that children or adults?
Children, adults. I do sexual assault, child sex abuse, 11 to 18-year-old male and female. I do befriending, but now I was like, you know what, with this George Floyd thing, everyone's going on the marches. I'm not discriminating against that because it's still a good thing. You understand what I'm saying? But what can I do to give something back to the public as well as helping our community. I say our community because our community needs empowering and uplifting so that we
Okay.
can move forward.
Okay, so as regards to empowering and uplifting our community, what are the key bullet points that you have outlined as a business and that you want to tackle?
All right. We've got kids that are going to school, coming home. They've been raped. They're not saying anything to their parents, and they're going to school every day. Some of them are seeing people that have been stabbed, whatever. Police officers,
Trauma.
people in any kind of uniform, whatever. When they go through them kind of things, they see people getting blown up and everything. They get counselling for that kind of stuff. Our kids ain't getting nothing like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they're too frightened to say anything to whoever is their role model for fear of repercussions with what's going on outside there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we deal with gang entanglement, that kind of thing. I'm involved with a whole heap of different organisations that if you need help with gang entanglement, just needing to speak with somebody, to offload,
to mediate,
people that can help. One thing that we've come across is when you need help, where do you actually go unless someone's recommended it to you?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Very, very good point.
You understand what I'm saying? So
because you know what, I just sorry, Kim. Yeah, I just wanted to say, because you make a very good point as regards to who's looking after our children when they go through trauma. So I've got quite a few friends who work for London Underground who drive trains, for example, and for them, if you see 3 fatalities, i.e., somebody commits suicide or whatever, they will absolutely write you off. You don't have to come into work anymore because they reckon the trauma is so bad. So for some of our children, you could think that in their school lifetime, they may be witnessed to so many, as you're saying, stabbings, murders, who is looking out for them. So it's a very, very valid point. Your business ethics is not just looking at just that particular part of helping people, but also the business side of it, such as helping Black businesses to come together to utilize their skills. Why is that important, Kim?
You know what? When we was at school, or even so much now, they don't teach our kids economics and how to build a life for the future, that kind of thing. We got to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I was speaking to, there's a young boy I was speaking to just a few days ago. He's got he's called Skin to Mint. He's only 18 years old, and he's going around schools showing the kids how to, this trading that's going on nowadays.
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And he's going around showing them that if we've got a few of those kind of people, ambassadors, going around to our schools, catch them while they're young, showing them how to make some serious money, as opposed to getting involved with, I say the other side, the gangs then. Yes, they're making their quick money, but the repercussions of that, do you understand what I'm saying?
Always.
Yeah, so I'm trying to deal with a whole wide range of things that is going to empower somebody to have a better life themselves and pass that on to their youth then.
Fantastic.
We've even got kids that are 16, 17, 18 that are pregnant. The male, they're involved, but it's going on in their head. Remember, these are still kids.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm trying to encompass a whole wide range of services that we can utilize, along with my sister's Blackwell Street, London, whereby you can go and sell and promote and network your product. She's even got it so that it's on a virtual market as well.
Okay. So where could we find out more information as regards to United We Rise UK, please, Kim?
Right. My email address is unitedwerisuk@gmail.com.
Okay, fantastic.
My
So listen,
website is not
go on
up.
website.
The website is not up yet, but it's practically the same, www.unitedwerisuk.com. But when that goes live, I will make an announcement when that goes live.
Okay, so Kim,
Go
so Kim, so your sister, does your sister have a name?
Natasha Vigil, she's actually watching.
Oh, let's say hello to Natasha. Hi, Natasha.
Natasha.
Fantastic. It's good that we've got you in the room as well, Natasha, so you can answer any kind of other questions, which I'm sure your sister is more than capable of answering. However, so let's talk about Black Wall Street, London. First of all, what is Black Wall Street, London all about?
Black Wall Street, London is all about, you've got a marketplace where you can come and sell and promote your products.
Okay, so when you say marketplace, so you're not talking about an online presence, you're talking about a physical building, yeah?
Yes, physical presence. We've done, the first one was in Dalston.
Okay.
Which was quite a good turnout. We've had a bigger place in Walthamstow, but due to COVID, etc., it's been postponed since then. My sister has set up this Black Million campaign, which I was talking to you about earlier, to encourage people to donate, share. If you've got, I'm saying if anyone's got the means that we can get it onto the media in all kind of platforms, let's do so.
Okay, so look, Kim, we've got a little video here. So let's play that, because that gives us a little synopsis of what Black Million campaign and Black Wall Street London is all about. It's on mute.
Why don't black people own anything? How the hell did we go from Black Wall Street to Black Wall Street?
Just for those of you who can't read it, it's saying our vision is to reach 1 million people, to change history, and to duplicate the process to assist others.
That's right. And the thing is, it can be done, but we need everyone to participate.
The campaign is to raise £1 million to purchase our very own 25,000 square foot building, and to start a Black Wall Street London, where we can have a headquarters for Black businesses, Black companies, Black marketplace, and that's literally it. The Black Wall Street London, the Black Million. Now, how you've given yourselves a target of again 1 million Black people, or 1 million people altogether?
You know what? It's for everybody.
Right.
Every and anybody can donate. That's what we're going to be using it for, but everybody can donate.
And how much are you trying to raise?
We are trying to raise the million.
1 million.
Yeah, we are trying to raise 1 million. If everybody puts in one single pound and spreads the word, puts that on all of their platforms, that's an achievable target.
You know what? It's funny because myself and Tony have been speaking on many a times and many a weeks as regards to ownership. Tony, you know, what do you think as regards to us raising our own money and purchasing our own buildings? What's your thoughts and views?
I mean, I think it's possible. It's possible. I mean, we've not long ago, I think we covered a news item in America where a few Black families got together and bought thousands of square feet of land with which they're going to build a city. I mean, I think it's possible. It's going to be about really whether the will of the people is there to support such a venture, and that the plans to create this can be seen. It's something tangible, that people can look at, that they're going to be contributing to, drawings, for example, or ideas of where this land is going to be. I think if Black people sort of see something happening, and it's a place and it's a time, I think people will be moved to support it.
Okay, sorry, I've just got a question here. Our second guest, ladies and gentlemen, is also very much business-minded. I just wanted to introduce her to the group. She goes by the name of Denise Richards. She's a very, very, very strong businesswoman, mother, an all-around superstar within our community. How you doing, Denise?
Oh gosh, because I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine. Really enjoying this conversation. But I just wanted to say to Kim, isn't it the same problem we have all the time? What happens is that Kim's doing a piece of work and it sounds fantastic. But one of the organizations I'm going to be speaking about when I do my bit is an organization called Synergy Energy. And this is one of the organizations that Paul Lawrence found. You're doing a piece of work and there's an organization doing the similar work, yeah? Why we struggle is because we don't join up the dots, yeah? There's an organization doing exactly the same thing as you. And if you were in touch with them, yeah, trust me, you'd be able to, it would give you such inertia to move things on. It's about joining up the dots. So programs like this, we really appreciate, because we wouldn't necessarily hear about this unless I was here. But I can put you in touch with an organization that perhaps you can do some work with, because we need to do these things together. There's not enough of us, Kim, to do it by ourselves. 1 million people, you need £1 million. It's going to be hard without you. So what we do, always remember this, we make up 3.2 million in terms of Black people in the UK. If you take out a number of those people who are in prison, with detention, elderly, sick in mental health, the numbers are a lot smaller. Let's join up the dots, yeah, and do things like that.
And that's exactly what my organisation is about. Uniting people, utilizing them, yeah, like you said, crossing the closing that gap, because we don't collaborate enough. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I've got something and you've got something, and somebody comes to me and they don't like what I'm doing, instead of me saying, you know what, Joe Bloggs down the road is doing blah blah blah, go down there and tell him that Kim sent you. No, people want to tear you down, because it's not about that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's about uniting with each other, collaborating with each other, holding each other up, supporting each other, lifting up the crown, not tearing it down.
We've got a question from Cosmo Morgan. Cosmo Morgan says, sorry, Kim, I just want to say, I don't think you're going to be able to get your camera working. So it's just that we can still hear a lot of background noise coming from your mic. So again, just leave it now, because it sounds like you're still tapping away on your keyboard trying to sort it out. Yeah, that's excellent. So Cosmo Morgan's got a question, and he says, what's in it for the people? Sorry, can you hear me, Kim?
Is that for me?
Yeah, what's in it for the people?
Right. The point is, whoever puts their money in is supposed to nominate the cause that you want to put that, us to recognize that they need funding, and that's who would be helping. Everything would be transparent, so you're going to know who got the money, how much they've got, what's happened with the money, what they've been doing with it. It's all going to be monitored. Do you understand what I'm saying? Remember, this is all to help people, to help the community, to enhance the community, to empower the community. We're supposed to be helping each other, and that's what we're trying to do. And that is about collaboration. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Tony, Natasha has actually, from like 7:29, given us a little breakdown of all the different things what she's saying. Can you just read some of those out for us, please, sir?
So Natasha's pointed out that the website is blackwallstreetlondon.com. wallstreetlondon.com. He also points out that we talk, but we don't walk.
Exactly.
So we don't look for that collaboration. And sometimes it could be that we start these ventures and we don't actually look around to see who's doing a very similar thing to us. We start it only to find out halfway through, or when we're sort of we've made some sort of progress. That there's this organization that's been around for 20 years doing the very same thing, which we could have linked with. And so sometimes, that could be the problem.
Most definitely, most definitely. Denise Francis says, I agree with Denise. We all need to come together and support one another. And Tegan Allison says, together, stronger, and Natasha rightly says, we talk, but we don't walk. Denise, so what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that you guys swap telephone numbers, contact information, and hopefully together we can be stronger. Final thoughts. Hadriana Evans says, are we missing an overall association to coordinate, join and be the point to bring all existing and new programs and projects together? And I think this is exactly what they're trying to say. Number one, let's own a place where it can become a beacon, a light for all to know this is a place where you can go to. It's Black owned. All of the stuff in there, all of the businesses in there are Black owned. And again, there's a supporting network and hub where we can start coming together with like-minded ideas and work as one, if we can. But again, it's just an important business process to start having ownership. Again, so sorry, Kim, if we can just put up the website or the details again, or just tell us where we can find out more information about Black Wall Street London, please.
www.blackwallstreetlondon.com.
Fantastic, fantastic. So listen, we'll keep in touch and we'll see the progress. So again, they're trying to raise £1 million so that we can own our own 25,000 square foot building, which is solely for the purpose of supporting Black businesses and again helping young people who've gone through the trauma of either sexual abuse or again violence as well. So let's help and let's support, and hopefully we can hit that target of £1 million Black pounds. What a thing!
Mr. C, do we have a Black Yellow Pages?
I think there's been websites of such, or where Black business directory. I'm sure that there's out there. I know on Facebook as well. There's a Black kind of business directory. Again, a lot of these things have come out of the Black Pound initiatives as well. So if you go on Facebook and you type in Black business directory or whatever, you'll see certain forums come up. So, but I don't think there's any place where we've got an actual building, which I think again is vital, absolutely vital. So, Kim and Natasha, we thank you very much. It's nice to see sisters doing it just for themselves, but also for the community. We applaud you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Our
and if
pleasure.
there's any volunteers and mentors out there, please contact me on unitedberise@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of Black businesses and Black buildings and Black icons, our guest today, Denise Richards, you could fit in all of those titles and those shoes and those hats, Denise. However, there's a man within our community who was probably fill those shoes and those hats 100 times over. Yes, we lost one of our greats this week, and Denise, I know that you knew him personally. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take this next couple of moments to honor one of our greats, Paul Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen. So Denise, let's start off. When did you hear the news as regards to Paul's passing, and what was the immediate thoughts that came across your mind?
is actually Colin, who's on the line now on this call. He rang me and told me, and I felt as though the world just caved in on me, because I'd lost 6 members of my family to COVID. Yeah, we've lost family C, we've lost family 2. In total, 6 family members have passed. But they were older family members, but that's not the point. Do you know, this wrecked me on Friday afternoon when I got that call. And I didn't go to bed. I stayed up Friday night, Saturday morning, and I think I went to bed Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Such as a devastation. So I'm just throwing my energy into anything I can do to support his legacy. Because that's the only way that I can actually cope with his death.
Okay, now I appreciate that some of our visitors and viewers and watchers have no idea who Paul Lawrence is. So let's start off first of all with who is the man? And see, again, it's even hard for me to say who was, because his energy, his spirit, his legacy is still here. So I will talk about him as he is still here. So who is Paul Lawrence? Who was Paul Lawrence? What did he do? What did he stand for?
What did he stand for? Do you know, I'm going to, because we don't have the time, I'm going to just give you some words from a poem that's in one of my friends wrote in the group, and he described him as a melanated warrior, a force of nature, a writer, a speaker, a presenter, community through and through, led from the back, the middle, and the front, left unshakable legacies. And the 100 Black Men, which he was the founder of for the UK chapter, Ola, the president, said he described Paul as the combination of, I mean, check this, it's Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King of our time. Yeah. Wow. He teases out the truth and facts and works with you to make a better vision of yourself. I mean, wow, what can I say? That's Paul. That was Paul. I can't walk in his boots, see? I can't walk in his shoes, his boots. Sorry, that man stands alone. He stands alone. An amazing person. And I'm just glad that I had the opportunity of spending 9 years of my life knowing him. Yeah, you know, spend lots of time. I mean, we did dinner with him. You remember you came to...
Correct. Yeah. That was the last time I saw him, actually. It was at the dinner that you did. Again, another fantastic idea of just getting like-minded individuals from all different kind of aspects of business, entertainment, to come to sit down in a house, have food cooked and have discussion. Absolutely fantastic initiative. A conversation with Denise Richards. It was wonderful.
And the thing about it is that the one that we were going to have which was cancelled because of lockdown. He was going to be the guest, the after dinner speaker. So it's going to be you next. See, you're the next.
Pleasure. And after me, it's you, Tony.
Yeah.
So look, we've got a little clip of the man, the great man, talking, and again, him being interviewed. Let's have a look at this so that we can get a better understanding of this great man.
If you sit down, we can't hear you. Yeah, helps our young people to build confidence. That's the way we roll. If you don't feel inclined to stand up, I'll just stare at you, but you don't have to. So the question is, and I want your thoughts on this, both in terms of the practitioners in the room and otherwise. Why does it appear that mental health generally, especially in the Black community, seems to be something we don't really talk about much? Anybody? Sir. When you speak tonight, initially, you only have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Yes, first I'd like to give thanks for 100 Black Men hosting this event here. I think I've been to 2 of the events, and so thoroughly give thanks for being here. It's quite interesting because it happens that I'm involved in an organization called Men with Voices. And one of the challenges we find is that why is it men don't talk? Because women them talk, you know, they talk to them girlfriend up on the phone and such and such. And men them don't talk. But when it comes to the whole thing about mental health, and sometimes I was when you starting on online, and it's almost that you find, like especially in the Caribbean, that a man of mental health seems a madman or him crazy and nothing to do with him and them thing there. So it's more of a stigma, so to speak. So I think that's one of the reasons, you know what I mean, they associate some kind of crazy man. Keep away from him, man, him an idiot or whatever. And I think that's something what's in our conscious all the time.
Okay, what we want to do now, we want to talk. There's two people in the room who previously identified themselves to me as people who have either experienced stuff themselves or they experience it through another party. First of all, I want to thank them before they speak, because it's not an easy topic to raise, which we've already established. And it's not an easy topic to raise in front of a group of strangers. Yeah. And so they have the same time constraint, unfortunately. So,
however, we need to also think about the men that are doing amazing things within our community now. Some of you may or may not know about these men, but on No Ordinary Woman Chat Show, you are always going to hear about leading people who are doing amazing things to inspire you to become who you have been created to be. Now, do you know, we have this amazing king with us right now. So should we just give a quick intro to our guest?
So. Yeah? We have with us Paul Lawrence, who is the founding member and media representative of 100 Black Men of London.
Yes. Now, the 100 Black Men of London is a community-based charity led by Black men, focusing on mentoring, education, economic empowerment, and health and wellness. We call these, what they call these, the four for the future. So without further ado, let's meet our king.
Paul. Yeah.
Hi, Paul. How are you? Well, thank you, sir, for coming. You look amazing, very handsome.
Ah, thank you. I do try.
I do like the fingers there as well.
Yeah, it's my 100 membership thing. We're not allowed out in public without it.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about your organization. How did it get started?
Well, the 100 Black Men of London was founded 17 years ago. Not very far from here, in fact, because I was just mentioned that the school across the road is where we had our first in-school program.
The area that we're in currently is in South London.
It's just across the road. But I guess the idea very much came from Birmingham. Birmingham was the first UK chapter of the International 100 Black Men of America, which started back in the 60s. But Birmingham had a very strong, thriving chapter before. And a gentleman named Ken Barnes, who was based up in Birmingham, moved down to London. And he thought that it would be a very, very good idea to have an organization of this type. Anecdotally, Ken had 2 daughters. And what Ken's philosophy was that he should be raising sort of Black men that he'd be happy to see with his daughters. And so for him, the 100 Black Men was certainly a necessity. We had a meeting by Tower Hill, and a couple of Black men, including myself, got together and thought, yeah, this is something we could put our heads together. And that was 17 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty spectacular. You know, I mean, contrary to popular belief, Kaz, instead of there being a few good men, there are plenty. And I think 100 Black Men of London demonstrates that.
Absolutely. In regards to it being 100 Black men, but how do these men actually join your organization?
Okay, most of the time it will be through people who are already members who will be, you know, doing stuff like what I'm doing today, and it gets some sort of what they're doing in their daily life. You know, Facebook, whatever, Twitter is a great place to say stuff, but there comes a point where you get this little urge to do a little bit more, and they will come to the 100 and they'll say, look, I'd like to join, I'd like to find out more. Our joining process is pretty straightforward. We like prospective members and volunteers, ladies join as volunteers, to spend some time with us, seeing what we do, seeing how we do it, understanding our ethos and our background, and making a decision that, yeah, this is something for you. And also it gives us in the organization an opportunity to assess the new member, because we got a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of work to do, and to build it politely, there's no space for people just joining because the pin looks nice or it's a nice place to hang out. So what we try to do is give people the opportunity to realize the level of work and commitment that being a member requires. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But very, very often, I'd say 90% of the people who do step forward, who go through the process, it's just a wonderful thing to see both our black men and black women working, you know, for no pay, but for the community. And when you have the track record that we have, it's easy to attract the right sort of people because they know the legacy that they're walking into.
Oh, man. Rest in power, Paul Lawrence. Gone too soon. He passed, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday, experiencing breathing difficulties. Hard-working man, Denise. Absolutely a hard-working man. He was working on a charity at the moment. Do you know anything about it, what he was working on? Could you tell us a little bit what it was, please?
Yeah. So, you know, Paul's involved in lots of stuff, but what he was doing in Jamaica, you may be aware of the flooding that's happened in Jamaica.
Of course, yes.
And yes, so he was working behind the scenes and he was helping to promote an online concert to raise money, for people who'd lost their homes, etc., etc. And to show where we're at with this, do you know that the BBC were going to be interviewing Tessa Sanderson and Junior Giscombe, and you know that in respect of Paul's loss, because he was such an integral part of this whole project, they pulled the whole interview. It can happen another time. That's his stature. And so they pulled it, and we were able to get another BBC interview with Tony Harrison, who's a good friend of his, on Sunday. And so Paul is so out there. When I take commitment, it's a different level of commitment that Paul had. And so when he spoke to young people, he told them things like, you've got two choices, Your choices are to excel or fail. And I'm not about the fail. I'm about the excel, That is who Paul Lawrence is. So you've got that one, you've got the 100 Black Men, you've got Urban Synergy, and Urban Synergy.
Another mentoring program. Very good program. Yeah.
So when Kim's talking about everything Kim was talking about, that's them. They're already established. When she's talking about fundraising, they're already established. And you spoke about a building. That is what Paul was going to be launching in January. The 100 Black Men are going to build, and they will do it. Yeah, they're going to have their own building where all these things we're talking about could potentially operate from. So it was interesting listening to Kim. But I'm saying to Kim, if you're still online, be in touch, because really there are people out there doing it for a good few years. Join them and let's, close those silos, join the dots. And that's what Paul was about.
Fantastic. We've had so many people throughout the community who have sent their condolences. One, of course, we heard a lot about his particular story of his life, was former superintendent of the Metropolitan Police, and founding member of the Black Police Association, Leroy Logan. He said that Paul was a community activist who didn't have a problem getting his hands dirty. In any initiatives that would in any way, form, or always, uplift our people, and he would always speak up. However, he was a man who was very compassionate, and he will be deeply missed. Deeply missed.
Deeply missed. Do you know on Friday when we did our Zoom, and everybody was saying, like, because I wasn't in a very good place, and they were saying, like, cancel it, Denise, we're cool, we can just cancel it. But this man, would have been saying, what the hell are you doing? Get on with the show. Because that's the guy that he was. There's no way under the sun would I have felt comfortable not to be sitting down crying. So I had to, because Paul would have expected that of anybody who knows what he's about. The show goes on, you get on with it. And that was him. But in terms of women, do you know why? You know why about Paul? I'm looking at the picture and I'm getting a bit emotional. But he'd say things like, a black man's wealth is his woman. Huh? You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of thing that Paul would say. Yeah, I'm like, what? Okay, what? Or he'd tell me things like, stop allowing my emotions to overpower my intelligence. That's Paul Lawrence. Yeah, or he'd say,
hold on. Sorry, repeat that line again, please. That is gold dust.
Denise, stop allowing your emotions, to overpower your intelligence.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
You
Words
know,
of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. That's what I'm saying. I'm taking them through my life into the next life, because that was that guy. That was that guy. So, you know, and any parent, you know, he wrote a book called 101 Lessons that he taught his son. Yeah. It's on Amazon. Get that book.
In 2017. Very much so. On Amazon, on all good book outlets as well.
Yeah. Get that book, you know, and put some good comments in too, because there are some, just put some good comments on Amazon website about it if you do get a chance to read that book. But there's just so much, and it wasn't just what he taught the young people, you know, the 10 to 16-year-olds, it's what he taught parents too, in terms of understanding their children. And, you know, he was a very good example of a dad who took the responsibility of his son and did all those good things. And Kareem, it's so funny because the joke was, you know what, why don't your daughter and my son, let's do an arranged marriage. Okay, and let's start a new trend. You know, it was that kind of conversation. The guy was amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So how can we honor this great man, and how can we continue his legacy?
Well, we'll tell you where we're at right now. So I'm trying to commission a piece with The Guardian to do something for him, and like an article, like a proper full obituary, because there are lots of people who don't know about this guy outside of our community. But the things we'll be looking forward to do is, like, if any organization, for example, you might want to do an award, call it the Paul Lawrence Award. Yeah. You know, we're looking at doing like what's his name? Nubian Jack, if you can do a plaque for Paul Lawrence. Yeah. Maybe your local authority might want to name a road Paul Lawrence Way. You know, it's that sort of thing. I don't know if we can get any posthumous awards for him. They're looking at doing a documentary about his life. Yeah, there's a lot of things out there. So for me right now, I think I would love to know that people buy his book. Yeah, buy his book is really, really important. Keep talking about him. Keep looking out in all the social network stuff, in, you know, Instagram, Twitter. There's things coming up. But I think the first thing that obviously we need to do is to lay Paul to rest. Once that is done, then the conversations can start, and it'd be just great if people could really make suggestions and ideas to the 100 Black Men of London, and they will communicate that with his son and his brother, and of course his fiance. You do realise he only told people about Shireen the other day.
And he's due to get married as well. So
it was that, you know, next year. You know, next August, that was the plan, and he was so in love and so happy, and that's why this whole thing is just devastating. But as I said, we have to use our energy in different ways, and my energy is to do whatever I can, part of my energy, to keep this going and encourage people to keep looking out for all the things that the 100 Black Men and his family want to do to ensure his legacy continues on. Because some of the young people who've actually gone through the 100 Black Men and who've gone through urban synergy, they have done some great things. There's some the outcomes have been brilliant. So I spoke to the director today, to Leela, and I'm going to be doing some stuff through another network that I'm on in terms of promoting what they do. So if you are somebody who wants to become a mentor, who thinks they can offer something, or you can offer a training place in your organization, or you could offer anything like that, contact Urban Synergy, contact the 100 Black Men, because those are the things that Paul would want us to do. He'd want us to do. He loved young people, and he loved what he could do in terms of developing them. So let us really get behind everything that Paul has done, and let's keep pushing it forward.
Fantastic. Oh, man. So listen, the larger than life Paul Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen, one of the absolutely outstanding men of our community. If you want to find out more as regards to the 100 Black men, then log on to www.100, the number, bml.org, where you'll find out all of their mentoring programs could be found there, and also links to Urban Synergy as well. Which again is absolutely connecting our young people to fantastic financial organizations in the city. An absolutely brilliant idea. So again, and as Denise says, if anybody is doing any kind of awards or any kind of recognition, then let's make the Lifetime Achievement Award named in honor of Paul Lawrence. An absolutely wonderful human being, and I've met him on many occasions, and that warm Jamaican tone of his, just, you know, no matter how the conversation went, he would always remain that calm Jamaican within the situation, which was just larger than life itself.
But he loved Buju Banton, and he's a Buju fan, and the other night the guy from the BBC was trying to find a Buju track, but he couldn't find one in the BBC computer, so he had to play Bob Marley. But this brother, a Buju fan, that man, Buju. and his book, I think Collins just asked for the name of the book.
101. Yeah, go on, Denise.
101 lessons I taught my son, and I was speaking to Danny. Danny is his publisher, and so she's really we're going to do some work with her in terms of making sure that lots more people get hold of that book and read it. It's a fantastic guide to parenting.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Lawrence, who moved to England from Jamaica in 1989 during his late 20s, and he made his mark here as a community leader, starting off so many charities, helping so many people and organizations, and we will surely miss him. However, we will now contribute to his legacy. Long may his spirit live amongst us and with us and for future generations. A round of applause, please, for Sir Paul Lawrence. Denise, you're more than welcome to stick around. Kim, I know you're still there in the background. This is the part of our show, ladies and gentlemen, where we dedicate it now to a little bit more understanding of who we are as Black people and our journey through time, from before we were born, before our grandparents were born, right up to here, to the future, as regards to our experience. I hand over to our esteemed historian. He spent so much time on this, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you've just gone for a little tea break or whatever, bring the children in, because it's so important that the children understand these bits of knowledge about who we are, where we've come from, and most importantly, where we're going. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Tony Crossbody as he takes us into the Black History Month section.
So, good evening. We're at the history part, and over the last few weeks, I've been trying to follow the breadcrumbs or the trail that tells your story as descendants of enslaved peoples. Now, we looked a few weeks ago about the myth that historians say when we are told that all Black people come out of Africa. We've seen that is an absolute lie. We've seen that the original early man that lived in Europe was Black. We know this because of the skulls that were found, which fall into a category called dolichocephalic. And a dolichocephalic skull is, in fact, a Negro skull. Many of them have been found throughout Europe. We know that many of the kings and queens of this country, United Kingdom, were, in fact, Black. We know they were spread out throughout Europe, and we find ourselves at this point in history in the Middle Ages in a little place called Spain and Portugal, or otherwise known as the Iberian Peninsula. Now, why the Iberian Peninsula? It is because we have the most records about what happened there and the journey of those black people who were on that peninsula, and therefore it makes sense to follow that history. Now, in 1492, the Muslims who had invaded the Iberian Peninsula and ruled it for 800 years were finally driven out by the Catholics. However, there was a sizable population of both Muslims and Jews within that land. Let's see the first slide for a second. So this is the map of the Iberian Peninsula. And when the Catholics took over, they had forced, under pain of death, all non-Catholics to become Catholics. This was known as the Catholic Inquisition. The main body of people that they were really targeting were what were known as Jews. These were black Jews who lived in Spain and Portugal at this time. Many of those who did not convert went across to the continent of Africa, as you can see there at the bottom of your screen. However, those that were caught were either killed or they were packed off and sent to the Caribbean. So those of you who are Jamaicans, we're going to look at this point again. You will see that the first Jamaicans who were, or the first black people that were taken to Jamaica were not in fact taken out of Africa. Next slide. Mr. C, if you would just be so kind to read the underlines for us, please.
The first Africans to arrive in Jamaica came in 1513 from the Iberian Peninsula.
Thank you very much. So notice that the first people who came to Jamaica did not come out of Africa. They came out of Spain and Portugal. Of course, this text here is a bit misleading because it leads you to believe that they were Africans. However, they were not. They were actually Jews. Jews who would not convert to Catholicism and therefore found themselves having to leave. Many of them also fled into Africa, where the Portuguese chased them into Africa, and using some of the help of their allies, some of the African tribes, took those Jews, packed them on ships, and that is what started the transatlantic slave trade. So many of us have sort of had this narrative that we were just Africans sitting on a beach somewhere and some evil men came and took us away. No, there is a specific identity to these people, as I'm going to show you, and a reason why they were taken in slavery. Now, what was interesting is that the slave trade, and particularly the Portuguese part of it, was signed off by the Catholic Church. So it was Pope Nicholas V who said that you must go and find these people wherever they are, strip them of all their assets and hold them in slavery in perpetuity, in other words, forever. And so began the European powers' quest into Africa and this transatlantic slave trade, which occurred over a period of 500 years. Now, these individuals, these particular Jews, these were descendants of the original Jews that you read about in the Bible. And of course, in the Bible, their fate, these particular Jews who were enslaved, their fate was foretold. Next slide. In their own writings, they were foretold to go into slavery by means of ships. They were foretold to be sold, and they were foretold that nobody would rescue them. Imagine that. This is something, of course, you won't hear in your church, and for good reason. But you can find this particular verse in the book of Deuteronomy. So the very same people whose ancestors wrote this prophecy ended up suffering this fate. This is how they ended up in the Caribbean, in Brazil, in Mexico, in South America, as a fulfillment of this prophecy. Now, why did they have to suffer this? Why? Now, we spoke about this last week and the week before, but these people were in a relationship with God. They were very particular, peculiar people. They had a relationship with the Most High God. They were in what's called a covenant relationship. So you will recall that a covenant relationship is where you have two parties involved, somewhat like a contract. But people who are not around at the time would still be affected by the covenant. So a husband and a wife who get married are in a marriage covenant. But if that marriage breaks up and they have children, the children will end up suffering. Next slide. Here is one of the stipulations of this contract. This is God speaking to his people. He says here, however, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. These curses included, but were not limited to, slavery and oppression. Furthermore, these people who broke their end of the agreement not only failed to follow what the Most High said, but were primarily responsible for the killing of Christ. Next slide. So the responsibility for Christ's death fell upon them when they sold Christ out to the Romans. And they were happy to take responsibility for it, not just themselves, but upon all the descendants of these people. This is you. The responsibility for the death of Christ falls on you because you are the DNA lineage of those people who sold Christ out.
It's almost like what Stormzy said, man. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, boy. Heavy is the one that topples the crown off the head of the son of... Boy, some heavy stuff, Tony, man.
Yeah. So what would happen to you once you were enslaved and living in foreign lands as you now are? What was going to happen to you? Let's look at the next slide.
You start talking Cockney, don't you, geezer?
Mr. C, would you read that highlighted part for us, please?
The Lord will drive you and the king you set over to a nation unknown to you or your ancestors. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone. Wow.
Thank you. So the Most High said basically that you would be driven to a land you did not know, right? Considering that your original land was the promised land, you'd be driven to lands you never heard of. Not only that, but you now end up worshiping different gods, gods of wood and stone. Now, what does this mean? Next slide. It's interesting to note that the two biggest religions that Black people find themselves in are in what's known as Christianity, represented by the wooden cross, and Islam, represented by the Kaaba stone. These are the two biggest groups where the people of God are today found worshipping gods of wood and stone.
Oh boy, you're gonna break the internet now. Wow.
So those of us who believe that the church has anything to do with God are quite mistaken. God does not see himself as being represented in the churches. He calls that God the God of wood. represented by the wooden cross. And if you know the history of the church, you know that the church system was set up 300 years after the death of Christ. Nobody during the time of Christ knew anything about church. That was just a creation that took place after his death, and they set themselves up as the spokesman for God. In fact, the Pope calls himself the Vicar of Christ, and all other churches have come from the Catholic Church. That is the original mother church, from which all churches have come.
It's a very
yeah. Go on.
No, it's a very, very interesting point that you've made there, man. Because you know, again, when you look at the origins of things and you see how they branch off and got hidden. I mean, like, you know, I don't want to digress. It's like all the whole Black Lives Matter organization in America. It's very much that it seems all good to the eye, but when you look underneath, you start to see exactly what's going on with the origin. So it's very, very interesting, this, Tony.
Right. So it's strange how a book that was written thousands of years ago could have actually predicted not only the fact that you'd be taken into slavery and oppressed, but also the lands of your oppressions, you would be serving different gods, believing, of course, that you were worshiping the true God. But as the Bible points out, these are gods of wood and stone, which have nothing to do with the God of the Bible. In fact, Mr. C, next week, most of us are going to be having a jolly old time worshiping a false God, are we not?
Well, listen, Tony, it's always a funny thing when you know, like, comedy for me helps you look at things from a different perspective. And like what you've just said there, it just makes sense to me in a way where I can think, I can't see it now as being anything else as nonsense afterwards. It's like, you know, the cross is where Jesus died. And, you know, it's like, if your son got killed, God forbid anywhere, would you wear the thing that killed him?
Right.
It's like, if he got knocked over on the road, would you wear the sign of the road on you? If you got licked by a car, would you wear the VW sign, the Mercedes-Benz? It's
right. Exactly. And just to pick up on the point that Natasha makes, she says, no disrespect intended. However, I feel all religion is man-made and therefore manufactured. Absolutely. That's what we're saying. So there's no disrespect. It's a fact.
We've got to look into the origins of things, people, really and truly. And this is one of the things where sometimes, you know, this is why we're in a state of mind now where as soon as somebody sends us something on WhatsApp, we just, what? Oh my God. And we send it out to everybody in our address book. And then you'll get the conscious one saying, what nonsense is this you've sent me? Have you checked the facts? Oh, you know what? I didn't think, you know, I just thought I'd send it. Because we don't look at the origins of things anymore. We don't look at, you know, to do a little bit of our own investigation, our own research, and make up our own minds as regards to what is real and what is propaganda and media sped nonsense. So yeah, man, Tony, we appreciate the time that you're taking out to actually bring this interesting, enlightening bits of knowledge to us. Thank you.
Right. So let me continue. So the point being is that the churches are nothing but a construct. They were designed to drown out who the real people of God were. You know, it's like we said, we say Black Lives Matter, some people say all lives matter. Right? The change of phrase is due to drown out the whole point of what Black Lives Matter really means. So these people who were Hebrews, who were respected because of that relationship and their history with God, they were drowned out with the creation of the church. And then the church persecuted them, signed documents that made them go into slavery. And they are in that position right now. Now, why did God allow that? As I pointed out, it's because they broke a covenant, an agreement which they made, on top of which they took responsibility for killing his son. So they were never going to get away with that kind of behavior. And as I pointed out, next week, we're about to continue our false God worship by celebrating Christmas, and a festival which is pagan in origin, and promoted by who? The church. Next slide.
I can't wait for my children to see this, boy. You've just rescued me from buying 2 PS5s, bruv.
Mr. C, read that whole column for us, please.
Christmas is really about bringing out your inner pagan, writes historian Kenneth C. Davis. He told CBS this morning, according to Davis, Christmas was celebrated as early as the 4th century, suggesting it had almost nothing to do with Jesus Christ. In ancient Rome, there was a feast called, Saturnalia, I think that is, ladies and gentlemen, that celebrated the solstice. What is the solstice? It's the day when the sun starts coming back. The days start getting longer. And as most of the traditions that we love to relate to Christmas, it relates to the solstice, which is celebrated on the ancient Rome day of December the 25th.
Thank you very much. So the original festival, what we call Christmas, is actually worship of the god Saturn. The Roman god Saturn. Now remember, it was the Roman Catholic Church that created the church system. And Natasha, again, you're absolutely right. It was created to control the masses, but its most important feature was to drown out the real people of God. In other words, those who were by lineage Hebrews, the original people of the Bible.
It basically carry on. No, I'm saying basically it's misdirection. It's very much like Jamie Oliver's Jerk Rice. You know, you don't see what the original thing is all about or get the real flavor of what the original thing is really about.
Right. And you can never know. Why? Because the institution of the Catholic Church grew so big and grew so influential. You see? And the Hebrews who were kicked out of their land and they were in exile were persecuted wherever they went. They were persecuted wherever they went. And the church stood in its place and said, look, we are the people. God is blessing us. You see? Next slide. Notice now in this particular scripture here what the Most High says about his particular people. Mr. C?
You only have I chosen of all families of the earth.
Thank you.
I'll say it again. You only have I chosen of all the families of the earth.
So the you in that verse there is in reference to the Israelite people of the Bible, the people that God had made a covenant with. He only knows them. Can you imagine, ladies, if you found out that some strange man had a picture of you on his Facebook saying that you were his girlfriend, and people came and asked you and said, oh, this guy says that he's your boyfriend, I see your picture on his Facebook page. How would you feel?
Don't bring up that for them. A lot of them have been catfished already, Tony. We haven't got all night to discuss.
Right. You would deny being in any kind of relationship with this person who is a total stranger. You see, the church is a total stranger to God. That's what he's saying in that verse. You see, only you I know. Only you people I know. You people who are currently enslaved, living in foreign lands, worshiping foreign gods. You and I have an arrangement. And I had to put you in this situation because you broke it. Next slide. So when you wonder, black people, why is it that whenever we try projects, whenever we try to improve our community across this nation, whenever we try to do things that are positive, we always come across hurdles. We always come across obstacles. We can never successfully complete a project where we can bring all our people together under one roof, unify, move forward. Why? The answer is in this verse here. Mr. C?
The Lord will send on you curses, confusion, and rebuke in everything you put your hand to.
So no matter what you try, black people, to move yourself forward, the reason why it fails Because the Most High is mashing up your things. That's why. X amount of man can come together, bring 10 grand, let's all start a business. One the man, one up for the money. We want to set up this organization. Government is not providing funding, or they pull the funding. Every time we try and get together and do something positive, we are merely a drop in the ocean as far as bringing the nation and the group together. Why? Because the Most High has put his hand on you. So it's bound to fail.
Just want to clarify something what Tony's saying. And Tony's talking about us as a people. Yes, there will be individuals who may break through the system and as an individual may. However, as a nation and as a group of people collectively, this will be our common experience.
Thank you very much for that clarification. That's the point. So individuals might try something and be relatively successful. But as a nation, your failure is not due to your ability. It's not due to your will. It's not due to a lack of talent. It is because the Lord is putting confusion on everything you do. And you're never going to win against him. So you're there trying to fight. You're trying to create these institutions and these organizations, which is great. But what you don't understand is that the root of your problem is spiritual. And you're trying to cure a spiritual problem with a physical solution. You will always fail. Next slide.
Yeah. It's a bit like when you've got a mouse in your house and you think the best way to cure it is to lock up all the food cupboards. The mice will yam its way through.
So whatever you try, and you must try, of course, you're not going to sit on your hands. You're going to try and set up these institutions, these organizations, these centralized bodies where your people can rise. And it's not the fact that you're not talented. It's not the fact that you don't have the will and the desire. It's because the Most High is working against you directly. Look what he said. Thousands of years ago, long before the transatlantic slave trade even started, he said that you would be forced into slavery and be oppressed for exactly 400 years.
Got an interesting comment. Denise Richards says she doesn't accept that.
Right.
Denise, what's the reason why, Denise, you don't accept what Tony is saying?
So, like, because Tony, you're blaming all this on God, yeah, right? You're saying that God is to do with this. I believe that God gave us free will, and I'm not going to put together like racism, yeah, that we actually suffer in terms of that's what God proposed for us. So I think it's great. We all have got our point of view, and you've given your point of view. But I will strongly am against what you've just said. Yeah, I believe there's, we've had a conversation before, and we know that I think sometimes we don't always look into things. We don't look into the origins of things. Yeah, we accept a lot of the things that we're told. And I love inquiring minds, and my inquiring mind will say, no, Tony, I do not even slightly accept that, not even that much. That's my thought. Okay,
that's cool. You're entitled to your opinion. However, what we cannot say is, yes, the Lord has given us the choice of this way or that way. However, it's about consequences. It's like yourself as a parent, Denise. If you say to your child, do not go down such and such a street at such and such a time, because bad man did that. Yeah, you've already foreseen what's going to happen. So therefore, now when people take a path, those consequences are a direct. They directly are because of what you've decided to do. So therefore, what Tony is actually saying is not that God has ordained these wickedness on us, because I think you wasn't here when Tony was speaking about consequences.
I was.
Yeah, that's what has happened. These things are a consequence. So therefore, anything we try and do it can't be undone until, as Tony's saying, you come back to that spiritual place, because as Tony's explained before, that this was only for a matter of time. But I'll let Tony continue.
Yeah,
but I just want to clarify that what's happening to us now is about the consequences of broken covenant, and that's what Tony's talking about. Yeah,
so the covenant that was given to the Jews, to the Israelites, and then the Bible would suggest that when Jesus Christ came, that his death atoned all of that. Yeah, so Jesus Christ's death changed all of that. So those laws that you'll find in Leviticus and all those laws do not apply to those post Jesus Christ death.
Well, that is what the church teaches.
Well,
So you've got to remember that a lot of us who have biblical backgrounds have come from the church, right?
Yeah.
The last time we've read a Bible through as a narrative was in the very same churches.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand too that the churches teach you the Bible in a certain way. There's a reason why these scriptures have never come up in your church or any other church for that matter. No churches ever talk about 400 years being enslaved. No churches ever talk about being taken away on ships. But they will tell you that Christ died for all our sins and that we need to turn the other cheek and hold each other's hand and sing Kumbaya. That is not what the Bible teaches.
I'm not into that one.
Yeah. So that is not what the Bible teaches. What the Bible teaches has to do with a specific people in an arrangement. They broke it, and as a consequence of breaking it, they are suffering the consequences to this day.
I just want to pick up on some of the other comments, what some of the other people are saying, just so that we can include them. Donna Ben says she totally agrees with you, Tony. That's why she stopped going to church. God is with me wherever I am. Now Chat Show says that they agree with Natasha. Nikita says, I picked up my Bible last year and read through the whole thing and was gobsmacked to see the truth of everything you've just spoken about. What a revelation. Natasha says, "Ooh, it's a bit deep, Tony, but I can't accept that." Echoing the likes of Denise, we rest on our excuses more like. Nikki also says we have turned our back on the Most High, and He is the only solution to every problem we face. Others, Fiona says that verse is putting the cat amongst the pigeons, and Anne's, the urban psychotherapist, says impact quote. Spiritual problems with physical solutions. Just finally, Natasha Village is saying, Vigil, sorry, is saying consciousness is not to be leveraged. Back to yourself, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. And Natasha says, don't accept, sorry, my God is good, her name is Mother Earth, forgiving all that trespass and practicing what she preaches. Well, that's fine. That God is not the God of the Bible. That's the only answer I can give you on that one. There is no God in the Bible called Mother Earth. And while there is forgiveness is conditional on God's conditions. Not just we can do anything we want and then we're forgiven for it. As I'm going to go on and explain. Next slide, please. Mr. C, would you read the highlight part first, please?
Then the Lord said unto him, know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there.
Right, so now we have a verse that speaks specifically about a specific country where the people of God will be held for exactly 400 years. Now, most of us will know a little bit back to transatlantic slave trade. We know it took place for more than 400 years. We know that, for example, in Brazil, it started in 1526. So which place on earth has had God's people as slaves and oppressed them for 400 years? Next slide. Now, the American president, Donald Trump, signed a House Representative Bill 1242, recognizing exactly 400 years of African American history. So you can look this up online, HR 1242, 400 years of African American History Commission Act, where the American top brass acknowledged that the African Americans have been there for 400 years. Next slide. Mr. C, would you read the underline, please?
The United States, to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Africans in the English colonies at Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619. Sorry, people.
Thank you. So the American government has said that, look, we've had people here who were slaves and who are still oppressed since 1619. If you count 400 years complete, 400 complete years, you come to the year 2020. 2020 is the 400th year of God's people being in a certain land where they were enslaved and oppressed. Coincidence? Well, you decide. So if God had basically had his people put into a land for 400 years, what was going to happen once the 400 years were up? Next slide. Mr. C, would you read the highlighted part?
With cunning they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation so that Israel's name is remembered no more.
So according to the Bible, there are peoples out there conspiring against you. They're plotting against you. They're plotting to eliminate you. Next slide. Who remembers this? This happened yesterday, didn't it? The first vaccination in the United States, and who do we see sitting there? Is the very descendants of those enslaved people. And haven't you heard how they want you to line up first? Those of you they call BAME. Those of you they call BAME, they want you to roll up to the front of the queue. Nikki, she says 400 years finished in 2019. No, my love, it finishes in 2020. The first slave were taken on the 20th of August, 1619. If you count 400 years, it's actually 2020. So the nations are conspiring against you to destroy you. That's why they're so keen to get you up front. Take your little vaccine. Obviously, that's a personal decision for you to make. But they know who you are. They know your history. You don't, but they do. They have all the records. You are a people that has had your name changed, your identifying name, from Negro to colored to black to Afro-American, Afro-Caribbean. So many name changes.
Black British,
all done to hide your identity. Next slide. So, because the Most High knows the plan against you, he has foretold something. Mr. C?
The Lord is angry with all nations. His wrath is on all their armies. He will totally destroy them. He will give them over to slaughter.
So it was necessary for the Most High to discipline his people first. They had to complete a 400-year cycle of discipline on the naughty step for what they had done. Once that was complete, the Most High then could carry out his plan with what he wants to do with the nations. Why specifically? Why does he want to do that? The foremost reason is because of the way you are being dealt with. You may not realize this. You have no chains on your feet, but you are still slaves. That is how the nations see you. And they don't want to let you go. They're not interested in any idea of you having any type of independence for yourself. No self-determination. Any existence you have must be with them.
And this kind of ties back into what Denise was saying, really and truly, that the things which have been done unto us, or have been done unto us as a people, is not God's work, because therefore he's been watching what's happened, and that because of the way they have treated us, he is now going to do his next phase of what he's planning to do based on how they treated us.
That is correct. So everything that we are at this moment in time, the language you speak, the clothes you wear, the ambitions you have, the prospects you're looking forward to the future, none of these things are yours. None of it. None of the designer clothes you have, the things you do for enjoyment, none of it is yours. And so the Most High has identified who you are, and now his job is to release you, or at least some of you, right, from your enslavement. Next slide. Now, it's interesting that if you look at the back of an American $1 bill, you will see a pyramid there. Now, pyramids are usually associated with what, Mr. C? Which countries, which nation?
Oh, I'm glad you said which country, because I was going to say usually they get money, get rich quick schemes where you end up broke. But the answer to your question is Egypt, Africa.
Right. Egypt, right. So what on earth does America have in common with Egypt that they would have a pyramid on the back of their $1 bill? Well, let me explain. In ancient Egypt, the Israelites were in hard bondage. A lot of you've seen the film, right? Or you've read the account. They were in bondage until Moses came, and then God brought the 10 plagues and freed them, right? Egypt was a first world country. It was a place that everybody flocked to live. It was a military power. It was a financial power of the ancient world. America today is the military power of this world. It is also a financial power, and coincidentally happens to have within its borders Hebrews who they enslaved. So it's interesting that we have a pyramid on the back of a $1 bill, because in the Bible, God speaks of America and calls her Egypt. And I'll show you that in a second. Next slide.
We've got a question, Tony.
Yes.
Now Chat Show wants to say, what does the eye represent in the pyramid?
Oh, this is the eye. This is supposed to be the eye of Horus, or really, it's David. It's the devil overseeing what they call the great work.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just another question there. I saw something there. So Tracy Young, if God chose for us to be punished, then why now punish the punisher? All right. Good question, Tracy. The problem is that the punishment that was meted out to us was far greater than was acceptable to the Lord. You were meant to go into slavery, but not to be treated the way you are. And God takes that personally, because as a people, you belong to him. So it's a personal disrespect. So that's why now he has to call back from these people who have treated you in that way. Next slide.
It's almost like Tracy, if you've got a child and not a child, if you've got a child who's an adult and at 21, 22 goes down the road and commits armed robbery, you'd expect that child to serve time in prison for that crime. However, what you don't expect is for that child now to be bullied and beaten and raped or called names or whatever every single day by the prison guards who are there to make sure that he serves his sentence. And that's the same kind of thing. You would want justice to happen the same way how justice has happened on your child. You would want now justice to happen on those people who have mistreated your child when they're supposed to be doing their job, regardless of the crime they've committed.
So now Chat Show says, okay, that's interesting because I've seen the eye in some of the modern churches in Belgium and Malta. Yes, yes, that's right. So they're telling you who they're working for. They're telling you who they're working for. Next slide, please.
And let's not talk about Belgium's involvement in
Oh,
wickedness
wow.
especially our brothers in Congo and
right, indeed. So in prophecy, the Bible points out concerning this nation that it is the most powerful nation than anyone on earth. Now, there is no argument about that. You can put against any other nation, United States is the most powerful nation that has ever existed in the history of empire.
Definitely proud and arrogant as well.
Right.
You know,
but the Most High has pointed out their arrogance and their pride and the way they've treated his people means that God has to visit them for judgment.
Correct their behavior.
Now, the question is, how does the Most High plan to do this? Now, this is where it really gets interesting, and this is what we've got to look out for. So we've highlighted a prophecy regarding 400 years in a particular land. We've highlighted what that land is. It was admitted by the American government that they had them for 400 years. The 400 years are now up. The nations are now planning and conspiring against you. And now on the Most High's timetable, he has a plan to visit America and give them attention. Now, how is he going to do this? Next slide. Mr. C, would you read that for us?
The Lord will push the Egyptians into civil war. Egypt will be discouraged.
So recall a few moments ago, I was showing the comparison between ancient Egypt and America. So in prophecy, when you see the word Egypt, it's not referring to the old Egypt. It's talking about this new Egypt where God's people are held. And as part of God's judgment, he is going to stir up a civil war, a coast-to-coast civil war within the borders of the United States. This will be the beginning of God's judgment. Now, that sounds so far-fetched, some people might say. But is it? Next slide. Mr. C, would you read that headline for us?
So this is from the Telegraph. It says, it reads, this worst possible US election outcome could very soon begin to look like civil war. The Democrats' failure to understand the nature of Donald Trump's appeal has left us with this near perfect divided result.
So we currently have a situation in America where America is so divided down the middle, and this election has really brought it out, that people are now actually starting to talk about a potential civil war. Next slide.
I mean, it's very strange because he still hasn't been. He still can't call himself the president yet, can he?
No. So notice here, Sky News tells us that people in Michigan are buying guns in fear of post-election civil unrest. So my question to you, doubters and skeptics, is how would a book that was written thousands of years ago, talking about a people taken away 400 years into a land referred to as Egypt that God would visit and bring civil war to it, at the end of 400 years, which we've arrived at now, and now the very media are talking about a potential civil war. Is this a coincidence?
Yeah. Jeremy says there are a lot of paramilitaries running around in the US of A.
Right. Black and white paramilitaries, right? So how is this a coincidence? Where else could you understand a story concerning yourself that answers the questions about why you're in this position? Because of course, in America, the Americans they're our brothers, right? They were just dropped off at different points. Their land is being highlighted because it is the greatest land on the face of the earth. It is the richest, most powerful, it's the most arrogant. They are holding God's people and they won't let them go. They're conspiring against them. And don't get me wrong, you're being conspired against too. Because remember, who are the allies of America? Next slide. So, as well as being in the midst of a coast-to-coast civil war, the Most High is determined that America will be invaded. Mr. C, would you read that first?
I will hand the Egyptians over to the power of a cruel master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares the Lord the Almighty.
So, as part of the Most High's judgment to free his people, he has to take down the United States. That is going to be their judgment. In the same way that Egypt was taken down and his people freed, we're going to see a very similar occurrence ahead of us. So when we talk about, as a people, well, we need to be free and we need to free ourselves, the reality is that on our own, it's impossible. It's impossible because we don't have the military might, we don't have the political clout, we don't know who we are, we're not a united people, we're totally disenfranchised, and we don't even understand our own history. In order to be free, you would have to have a power that was greater than any nation on earth to free you.
I'm just thinking and looking at this and reading it, Tony, it could possibly also be interpreted that Egypt will not be handed over to another nation, but it could just be, because it's saying the power of a cruel master, right, a fierce king who will rule over them. So it could be the new president, could be this cruel master.
Yes. I mean,
the next president could be this cruel king, or it could be somebody who's got so much influence and control over the United States of America, somebody from banking, somebody from pharmaceutical, possibly, who could be this master of this nation.
Right. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at the verse in isolation like that, you could be led to thinking that. But there are numerous other verses that speak of an invasion, which you have to take all of them into. Obviously, I can't put all the verses up. I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But the verses make it quite clear that it will be an invasion. If you actually look at Bible accounts of how God dealt with nations in the past, it was always the case where he would have those nations invaded. That's how his people were freed. You see? Well, we find out that situation took place in ancient Babylon when the Jews were taken there for 70 years. The Persians came in and took over the nation and freed them. And so it's going to be a repeat of that again, that something more powerful than that nation will come in, take it over, and those people who were held there as slaves for the 400 years will be freed.
So just for clarification, are we saying that St. Lucia is going to now take over the United States of America?
No.
Okay, just to clarify.
No. It will have to. It will be a number of nations, and all of them very, very powerful, because the United States is a great military power, right? And Nikki makes the point that Babylon is going to fall. Yeah. So in the scriptures, America is called Egypt or Babylon, and Babylon is due to fall. And that is how God's people are going to be freed. And then what happens from there is that the Most High will then start visiting other places where his people are held captive and free them from these places. So your whole existence in the UK or in the Caribbean or wherever you're from is all part of a judgment that was due to last for a period of time. All of you today are blessed because you were born at a time, you were the last generation that were born that was able to live to see the end of the 400 years. And now what you're going to see moving forward is the Most High start acting on your behalf. It's funny how we've arrived to 2020 and all of a sudden Black Lives Matter and the black situation has now come to the forefront of the world consciousness. It's been there all this time. But 2020 is the year where this is now woken a lot of people up. In fact, even black people themselves have started to wake up. And so this is the reason why we're talking about this history, because this history is before slavery. It's before slavery. And then we have to understand the reasons for the enslavement, how long it was to last for, who it was to do with, and what would happen after. So the next step now for black people is to, what you're going to see next is things are going to get a little bit harder for you now. One, and then keep your eyes on America. Most High has foretold that he will stir up a civil war there. And then you will see how things move forward. And this is not going to be in your children's lifetime or your grandchildren's lifetime. The 400 years are up. So it can be any time moving forward from now. We see what the place that America is in politically. Next slide. So here's the Most High's plans. The Lord Almighty is mustering an army for war. They come from faraway lands. So God is taking credit for the armies that he's going to raise up to conquer these nations and judge them so that you can be freed.
Very good question. Sorry, Tony. Very good question there from Jeremy. He says, is there a part in the Bible that says how long it will take for the final change?
No, not exactly. Not exactly. Not exactly. So that's why I can't tell you. I can't give you a time period. What we can say for sure is the 400 years are up. The Most High has promised that after the 400 years are up, he's going to judge those nations that treated you badly. And then you're going to be freed from those nations. However, it's not going to be all of you. And we talked about this last week, because some of us are living a lifestyle, right, that is not, pleasing to the Most High. So repentance for some of the things that we're doing needs to be part of our life if we hope to come out of this beneficially. See?
Natasha says, no disrespect intended, but is the Lord on black man time then? Because his plans take forever.
Well, they only take forever if we don't understand them. And that's often the problem, is that we don't read a lot. And we certainly don't read the Bible. That's probably one of the last books many of us read. And I think if we read it and understood the history behind it, actually the Most High is always on time. But he is black. That we can say.
And also, this is sometimes where we get confused, because time is a Western concept as well, Natasha. And most importantly, is what we have to look at is its plans take forever. Lessons are repeated until they're learned. And, whether you read the Bible or not, life and nature shows you that. If you that's why when you're small, your mum will say, oh, don't touch that. And then what happened? If you can't hear, you must feel. Consequences. So lessons are repeated until they're learned.
So let me just address another couple of questions here. So Jemmy Reese says the powers that be are not going to give up their nest egg lightly. Absolutely, Jemmy. That's why you are going to be a target of persecution, because they know who you are. I think what I haven't explained to you is what the Most High has what he intends for you as a people. His intention is eventually for you to rule this world. That is the reason why they want to kill you off. It's because they're not going to give up what they've worked so hard to attain. So the promise that God has made with his people, if you look at in the book of Exodus, God has promised that you are going to be a nation of kings and priests. That is the final fulfillment of what God has for this planet. But the people who rule this planet are not going to give that up, and they will kill you off if necessary. And they have been doing that. And they're still planning that. So that's a spiritual understanding. The issue, it's not about the color of your skin. It seems that way when you, from an outward point of view, but it's actually about who you are, your identity, Someone else has your identity at this moment in time. Everything's been covered. All these people know who you are. You are the only ones that are not aware.
We see it happening on social media all the time. How many of you have had a friend request from a friend only to find out that that friend wasn't really the friend?
So Natasha says, we already rule the world, we just got to believe it. Well, if you want to believe that, Natasha, in face of all the evidence, obviously that's up to you, but I think the evidence clearly shows that the white man has his boots firmly fixed on your neck. Jay Thomas, I suggest you look at previous videos, please. I mean, I can't go back over that again. I've done quite a few series of videos on this very subject. So if you'd like to go back, you'll see the answer. I'm not blaming God for it at all. You just have to go back and look at the whole narrative again. You just obviously just jumped in today, so you're going to miss most of the story. So, just to round up, you are people that were taken into slavery. The Most High allowed it because you broke the covenant. You killed his son. You have his blood on you. And he had to discipline you. And he allowed another nation to take you away into their land, where you were kept for 400 years. Once that time period was over, the Most High says that I will come to get you. Next slide.
Just while we're waiting for that next slide.
No,
no, yeah, sorry.
Of Genesis, the 15th chapter, the 14th, 15th, and 16th verses. It reads like this: Know of a surety, Abraham, your seed is going to be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. And they shall serve them, and they shall be afflicted 400 years. Who you think that's talking about? It's you. You're the only people that have been under a strange man in a strange land for 400 years. Look at what the scripture says. But after that time, yes, God talking, I will come. And I will judge that nation that they shall serve. Yes, sir. We are now living in the day of judgment.
Okay, so that's Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan reiterating the thoughts that we've been talking about. Jay Thomas, don't worry, brother. Yeah, I understand. It was a misunderstanding. No problem. It's cool. So there you are, black people. That this is something that is not well known, but it's well known amongst those who've studied it. You are no other people. There are other people. There are hundreds and thousands of different black nations and black tribes around the world. You are none of them. Your history is so unique that it's so coincidental that your history is found within the pages of the Bible, that we have to ask the question whether that is actually your true history.
I just want to pick up on something what Jeremy Reese has said as well, that his post here from the Washington Post, it said the Bible was used to justify slavery, then Africans made it their path to freedom.
Yes, yes, indeed, it was. But that doesn't negate the history.
Yeah, but again, it's all part of the misdirection.
It's a fact.
And they're
and we know that they took selected parts of the Bible out and made something called the Negro Bible with which to control those who were enslaved. That's absolutely true. But none of that negates the fact about the history that we have. Can we have the last slide, please? One more, I think. So if you're interested in this subject, if it grabs you in any way, then this is a book I would recommend. It's a very short read, but it actually goes into much more detail than I have time to do. It's called The Bible is Black History, by Dr. Theron D. Williams, and he investigates the whole history of the enslavement and how they're connected to the original Israelites and where they are, where it's all going. So that would be an interesting book for those of you who want to know more. Glow, I'm still confused that black people have been given free will with the expectation to work as a monolith. Please let me know what video to watch where you have covered this. Covered this. Sorry. So if you go back, go back about 3 videos before this
3
one.
weeks back. Yeah.
3 weeks back, and I started from there and brought it all the way up to here. I go into a lot more detail. Tonight was pretty much a recap. So there are a lot of things that I missed out. I know some of you probably heard this for the very first time, so it might be a little bit confusing. But if you go back from 3 weeks, I start the whole story right from Europe and how they how they arrived at on this side of the world and why we're here. And so this is when we talk about our ancestors talk about the half that's never been told. This is the half.
Or as Budger says, the full that has never been told. We could go on and on. The truth has never been told.
Right. It's never been told. And it's not supposed to. And even in the churches, even the black churches, they don't talk about this. You go and ask your pastor about this and listen to how he answers you.
Well, sometimes in the Bible, when they talk about certain things, they're talking metaphorically, metaphorically.
Right. They don't talk. They say it doesn't matter what color Jesus was. It doesn't matter what color the Hebrew was. None of it's important.
We're all God's children,
Right.
If I cut you and you cut me, we both bleed the same blood.
Right.
It's all metaphorics,
And this is why in the churches they always teach this whole idea about if your enemy slaps you, turn the other cheek. Because they know what they've done to you. They know what they've done to you. And they want you to turn the other cheek. And then they say to you, don't worry, when you get to heaven, it's all going to be all right.
Milk and honey.
But the Most High says, no, it's not going to be all right. I'm going to come and judge you. And you all are going to get the very same things that you put out on my people.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we round up today's show with, again, if you want to find out some more, The Bible is Black History by Dr. Theron Williams. Is a very, very good recommended read, very short read as well. Tony, what can we say? Excellent job again, my brother. We want to say thank you to all of the people who've joined in with the comments, and your thoughts and your views is just as valid as Tony's or mine. Each one teach one, and I think through discussions like this, we get a better understanding of who we are, what we've been through, and most importantly, how to move forward collectively as a unit to reach that promised land. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been What a Week. Final thoughts, Tony?
I would say keep your mind open, and let's watch how world events take place. And then you might even want to come back to this video again when things turn out the way we're discussing them.
Fantastic. Tony, we need to call you Dr. Tony, Jemmy is saying. Absolutely awesome as expected. Salute. Thank you, each and every one. This has been What a Week. We catch you back same time, same place next week. Remember to like, subscribe, and to share. Take care.
£25,000. The Community Lottery, a subscription-based lottery that allows you to continue to support good causes that matter. When you win, good causes win. Every month, eligible good causes have the opportunity to win a share of funds that could help them continue the good work that they do in our communities. To apply, there's no complicated forms, nor do you have to be a registered charity. Just grab your phone, send us a 60-second video explaining your good cause and the difference having extra funding would make to your project. Visit thecommunitylottery.com. Hit the play button and sign up for either 13 weekly draws or by direct debit for just £4.35 that gives you 4 weekly draws. You could have the chance of winning £25,000. The aim of the Community Lottery is to create an additional source of funding that will enable good causes to undertake innovative projects that matter. If you're in, the communities win.